All right. Well, let me ask you a question. Every time you scroll past a $900,000 starter home on Zillow, do you secretly say to yourself, or maybe you say it out loud, I hope this all comes crashing down. I hope the housing market implodes. I hope values drop 40, 50, 60%, and it's a complete and utter apocalypse in the housing market. Is that something that you probably say out loud, say to others, maybe even comment on my channel about it? A lot of people do. If that's you, you are not alone. A recent survey from LendingTree found that 52% of millennials think a housing market crash will happen in the next year. And as a realtor, I can tell you that I obviously help people buy and sell homes. And some of those people could care less about the price of a house because they have a lot of money. But the majority of the people I help are just good, hardworking individuals that are looking for an opportunity to buy a decent home. But the reality is that housing really feels out of reach for many, many hardworking people in the US. And the median home price now is 5.8 times the median household income, approximately. And that's compared to the average of 3.5%. I'm sorry, the average of 3.5 times median household income. So home prices compared to median household income right now are completely unhinged, obviously. We know that. So I think for some, a crash, a housing market crash, feels like the only way they're going to be able to afford a home. However, there are others out there that want to see the system completely crash, but have no intention to buy a home. So my question is, which one are you? Are you the person that is wanting a housing market crash because you genuinely want to buy a property? Or are you someone that just wants a housing market crash to excuse inaction? That's the question I have to start this off with. And that's what we're talking about today on the Housing Nerd this morning. It's a beautiful spring morning here in Ohio. Got the birds out with me here. I got all the great viewers from the Housing Nerd jumping in on the channel right now. And yeah, we're going to talk about if you are actually rooting and hoping and cheering for a housing market crash. Hey, good morning, Cheryl. How are you? You're here to learn? That's good. I hope we can learn together. So, why so many people want to crash? Well, it's usually just not about economics, right? It's about, it is about emotion. There's a lot of emotion involved in buying a home. I know people say you got to buy without emotion. Well, good luck. Good luck buying without emotion. Unless you're a robot, there's always some emotion involved. And to say you're not going to buy with emotion, zero emotion is kind of impossible, I think. But it's also about fairness, right? This is all about fairness. I think a lot of people feel the market is just unfair right now. And since I have got some stats here, they're pretty astonishing. And by the way, I didn't say this. My name's Jason Ferrier. I am a realtor and investor in Central Ohio. I'm the housing nerd. And if you're looking for unbiased, unfiltered, real housing market information from someone that doesn't care if you buy a house or not, I'm here to give you the data to make the best decision possible. But I'm not going to tell you to buy, and I'm not going to tell you not to buy. So if you want those pieces of advice, you came to the wrong spot. But if you just want unfiltered info and a place to ask real estate questions and talk about, the housing market, good, bad, and ugly, then you came to the right spot. So since 2019, housing-related stress has jumped 43%, according to the American Psychological Association. By the way, I've got a lot of stats today. They're all linked in the description below, or at least probably 90% of them are. If I missed one, let me know. 86% of renters say that they will never be able to buy a home. 86% of renters. So the math backs up the fact that people think I'll never be able to buy a home or it's completely unfair. Right now, the average mortgage payment eats up about 41% of the average buyer's income out there. And that's well above the historical average of 30%. And I hear from buyers every day who are doing all the right things. A lot of folks on this channel, you do the right things, you're saving money, you are trying to make the best financial decisions possible, but you're still coming up short in the housing market. So I completely get that. In fact, if I had to find a home right now, a comparable home to where I live now, in the town I live in, I wouldn't buy the home I have. I would have to buy something much smaller or live somewhere else or rent. I mean, home prices have just gone insane for everybody. There's few out there that can afford it, and it doesn't matter what the price is, but most people are like, man, homes are just expensive. So I could not afford to buy. If I put my home on the market right now and a doppelganger Jason wanted to buy it, I wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, I may be able to do it, but I probably wouldn't. It would be completely unsustainable. And that's sad, right? That's sad. So in essence, I think there's two types of people. I've been thinking a lot about this, put a lot of time into this live today. I think there's two types of people out there that I run into and I see on the channel when it comes to housing crash talk. The first group wants the market to tank, but they have no intention of buying a home. Then the second group of people want it to tank or are hoping for prices to come down because they genuinely want an opportunity to buy. So again, I want to know, which one are you? And I'm not going to besmirch either one, by the way. Like, if you just want to crash and doom, you can take your emotion and your anger out on me. Like, I'm a realtor, I'm an investor. So, and there are people on the channel that do this. I don't think they know I'm a realtor sometimes. So they comment and say stuff like, I hope realtors are replaced by AI. Stuff like that, which doesn't bother me at all, by the way. So take your aggression out on me. If you're frustrated about the housing market, let me know. Talk about it. In a 2023 Bank of America survey, 68% of non-homeowners said that they're waiting for prices to fall. But only 23% of non-homeowners are actually saving or improving their financial position. So you got a group there, again, that are hoping for a crash, but quite frankly, aren't doing anything about it. I thought that was interesting. Didn't surprise me. So the folks that are not saving, they're not doing anything about it, they're just hoping for a crash. They're not house hunting. They're just doom scrolling. And I found a couple forums on Reddit. One I thought was interesting called RE Bubble. And I looked at the stats. They've grown from 5,000 to over 100,000 subscribers in a few years. So there's a lot of people out there just doom scrolling, hoping for a crash, wanting to see a market apocalypse. For a lot of people, watching the market collapse, I think, is just more satisfying than actually buying a home. I mean, buying a house is not like fun. It's not. I mean, I guess some people think it's fun. If you have unlimited money, it's fun, maybe. Even that is probably a chore. But buying a house isn't, it's not exciting. So it's kind of easier and more satisfying sometimes, I think, just to look at YouTube or the headlines and point and go, ha, the market's crashing. Aha, good. The second group of people, though, and I talk to these people usually, mostly, because they want to actually do something. That group is real. They're real people, and they're buyers who are pre-approved. They are buyers who are working on their financial position. They are buyers that are house hunting. They're doing the work necessary to find a house. There's a video I just sent to my editor that I'll have back hopefully today or tomorrow from a viewer on this channel that has been doing the work in order to find a home, and he found a home despite the market conditions, and he found it according to his realtor who helped him buy the home. The realtor said he got the biggest He got the most off of asking in the neighborhood in the last year. So he basically got the best deal in the neighborhood in the past 12 months. And he did that by doing the work. That video will come out in the next maybe 5-6 days or so. And stay tuned for that because it's pretty awesome. He did a great job. I interviewed somebody who contacted me from this channel. So a real person. So anyway, the people that are really hunting and really want a housing correction because they really want to buy and they're doing the right things, they are doing the things to keep themselves financially stable. They're actively looking, but they just can't find anything affordable. Those are real people out there. Only 17% of renters, around 7.5 million households, can currently afford a medium price starter home. Only 17% of renters. And that number obviously has been shrinking for years. So in 2021, about 8.7 million renters, since 2021, 8.7 million renters have been priced out of home ownership altogether. So they're not speculators. These are not people that are like investors or hucksters. These are people that are just like teachers, nurses, firemen, police officers, single mothers, single fathers, people that just want a home and want stability. They're not really hoping for a crash out of anger. They're just hoping for a crash out of necessity in a way. And if I were in their shoes right now, I would feel the same way. Like if I was on the sidelines and I wasn't in real estate, I would be in their same position mentally. I mean, how can you not be? Oh, look at this. What's up, Travis? Yeah, using the Pocket Osmo. It works on the laptop, surprisingly. It takes a little finagling, but it does work. Doesn't work great on a phone, but it works great on a laptop. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Travis. So let's talk about what happens if a housing market actually does crash. Or rather, back up a second. The next part I want to discuss is the clean market myth. That's what I called it. Some people tell me they're waiting on a housing market crash, or they're waiting for the fraud, the greed, and the corruption to be cleaned out of the system before they buy. But I'm not a genius, but I do know that that will probably never happen. The fraud, greed, and corruption will never be out of the system. I don't think there's ever been a fraud-free system in maybe any system, any financial market. I did a little research. Back in the 1970s, there was an FHA-backed mortgage scam. And it was so rampant throughout the U.S. that entire neighborhoods were basically destroyed. There are areas in Columbus where I've invested in where you can literally see where they put a major 4-lane highway, I guess it's 8 lanes now, down the middle of a neighborhood, dividing the neighborhood between the haves and have-nots. Is that fraud and greed and corruption? Probably. When was that highway built? Like the 1950s, I think. Then in the early 2000s, we all know what happened. All kinds of goofiness, right? Crazy speculation, mortgage-backed securities that were sold to investors and caused mom and pop to essentially, lose their home to foreclosure. Tons of adjustable rate mortgages, tons of predatory lending. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? In the 2000s. So that was kind of fraud, right? I would call that fraud, greed, and corruption. And today, what do we have? We got the FHA mortgage debacle, where the government has basically said, well, you don't have to pay your mortgage anymore. We'll pay it for you, kind of. But we put it on the back of your loan at a 0% interest rate. By the way, I've talked to people recently who have used this program, this FHA kick the can down the road, extend and pretend program. I've talked to people that have used it, in the last year. It's real. They have not paid their mortgage. They have no intention of paying their mortgage. Can they afford it? I don't know. I'm not going to say if they can or can't. I don't know their financial details, but I do know that they have no doubt used the program. Is that fraud, greed, and corruption? I think it is. I think it is. So fraud, greed, and corruption exists today. It existed in 2000. It existed in 1970. It existed in 1950. Probably existed in 1920, 1900, 1850. Point is, there's always fraud, greed, and corruption, folks. There always is. So if you're waiting for a clean, safe, perfect market to buy in, you will never buy. You will never buy. The fact is that buyers who educate themselves do things that others are unwilling to do, like look off MLS, follow up with sellers who are expired listings, drive for dollars. In fact, here in about an hour, I got to go look at another property I found by driving for dollars. Wasn't on the MLS, wasn't on Zillow, wasn't for sale by owner. The guy wasn't even selling the house, but he may sell it to me, or he may sell it to a client of mine, or I may list it for him. I don't know. But you have to be willing to do things others are unwilling to do. And if you do that, and you do your homework, and you educate yourself, you will win even in a messy system. You will win. Again, I've got a guy on my channel that just won a great house and got it well under asking. And that interview will be on the channel soon. So let's talk about what happens if we actually, I'll get to your comments here in a minute. Any comments are on there. Let's talk about what happens if the market does crash. Because I've heard this logic countless times. When the market crashes, I'll finally be able to afford a home. Okay? Let's look at that a little closer. There are a lot of qualified buyers out there just waiting for prices to drop. How many qualified buyers? I really don't know. I have no idea. It's hard to guess. But I will say that, like, if you are someone who is on YouTube a lot and and you're on other channels, like you're watching, let's say, like much bigger channels than mine, like Travis from Real Estate Mindset was on this morning on mine for a second. I don't know if he's still on or not, but that there's a lot of comments on Travis's channel from people that say, I'm on the sidelines waiting to buy. I've got cash. I'm waiting to buy. Like countless people are saying that on his channel. I don't know how many there are out of his hundred and some thousand subscribers. Congratulations, Travis, by the way. You're like near 200,000 subscribers. That's awesome. I started watching you when you had like 20,000, so awesome job. But yeah, there's a lot of people on these channels, on my channel, who are like, I've got cash. I'm on the sidelines waiting to buy. I don't know at what point they'll jump into the market. That's an unknown. But if you're waiting for prices to drop and Jimmy is waiting for prices to drop and he has cash, and that guy's waiting for prices to drop, and this person over here is waiting for prices to drop, and oh, by the way, I'm waiting for prices to drop as an investor, and I've got, I don't know, I don't have a ton of clients. I've got like 24 clients that are waiting for prices to drop who are not investors. Then I've got another, in my database, 100 clients, 100 investors that are waiting for prices to drop. And I'm just Jason, the housing nerd in Columbus, Ohio, with 2,600 YouTube subscribers. I'm nobody. There are a lot of people out there, I think, who are waiting for prices to drop. You're not the only one doing that. To pretend that is nuts. Then you've got the big investors, the institutional investors, who bought approximately 28% of all single-family homes in 2022. Yep. And they're sitting on roughly $340 billion in cash, like buckets of cash, Like you know um, those big I can't think of the term, coal buckets. Those big coal buckets you see where they're like on these big cables and they scrape the ground where they pull up tons of earth, tons and tons of dirt, and they dump it in these massive dump trucks when they're clearing like a mining site. You've seen them on Discovery Channel, I'm sure. That's the institutional investors. They're just gonna scoop up all their cash and they're like, man, I got piles of cash. What am I gonna do with all this cash? They're gonna buy houses. Like the gig is up. Like, and the gig's not up when I say like the market's gonna crash. The gig's up. The gig is up that homes are a good investment if you buy them at the right price. You make money when you buy real estate, not when you sell it. That was like the first thing somebody told me when I got into real estate. They were like, an investor said who had been doing it for 180 years or whatever. He's like, hey, this is the fact, dude. You make money when you buy, not when you sell. So buy right. Well, the investors, like you, are waiting to buy right. We all know that the institutional investors don't control the majority of the housing market. They control like 1%, 2%, depends on what study you look at, right? So it's not every market. It's not every house. In some markets, it's more concentrated, like in Atlanta, Jacksonville, much more institutional investors. Uh-oh. Am I off? Uh-oh. Oh, I'm back now. Can you hear me? Maybe had a delay here. I apologize. Tell me if you can hear me or not. If you can't, I'll restart it, do it again. Tell me if you can. Or tell me if you can't. Anyway, I'll keep going. It's good practice. Excellent connection. All right. I'll try again. I don't know where I stopped. I don't know where I got off here. My internet connection's very frustrating. I'll just say that. I'll just say that. We can hear you. Good. Thank you, Julia. I appreciate it. Welcome this morning. So I don't know where I dropped off. I'm not sure. Okay, so where was I? That dang internet throws me for a loop every time. So yeah, the institutional investors, they've got tons of money. They're ready to buy. The gig is up. They know that housing's a good investment. They're not stupid. This is the same reason you want to buy a house. That's the same reason I'm going to go spend my day walking through a smelly, decrepit property. Why? Because I know real estate is a good investment. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste my time. And neither are you. So you know real estate's a good investment, and their $340 billion knows it as well. So don't for a second think that if the housing market falls in prices, that institutional investors aren't going to load up again to drive the prices back up, probably, right? And the institutional investors, and actually a lot of mom and pop investors, they move fast. No inspections, no financing, just buckets of cash. You're not going to be competing with fewer buyers. You're going to be competing with a lot of people that have more cash than you, less contingencies, and aren't going to live in the house. So they're not emotionally tied to it. It's just a number on a spreadsheet. I think that's something to think about. That doesn't mean you buy today unless you find an amazing deal, but it means that if you like are waiting for an external thing to make you successful, then you're going to be waiting forever. You can't control what happens to the housing market. You can only control what you do. So having this like horizon of like a crash in your future and thinking I'm going to do that, to me is a little odd. It's not odd. I guess I just hope and would wish and want, if you're watching this, to do the work now to find the deal today, regardless of what's going on in the market. and then just be okay with it. Like you may buy a home and that home could decline in value. It could go up in value. But if you comfortably buy a home and you buy it with the right strategy, does it really matter if it goes down in value? No, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't. I mean, if you're going to stay in the home 10, 15 years, does it matter? You can't really use the equity unless you sell it or refi it, right? The other thing here that needs to be discussed is mom and pop investors. And I guess I'm one of them. I guess mom and pop investors, folks that own less than 10 homes. A lot of people who are mom and pop investors are accidental investors, right? They were like given a home from a parent that died, or maybe they have a home in a divorce and they have a renter in there now. So a lot of them are just accidental investors, but a lot of them are purposeful. They are going to be out there competing with you as well. So you got people like you that have been waiting for a crash with all these cash on the sidelines. I'm not sure how many people are like that. A lot of people on my channel comment like that. I see other people on other YouTube channels commenting. So you got those people. You got institutional investors. That's not going away. And look, this has to be like, I know that there's a lot of narrative out there that they're net sellers. Like that, they're unloading their bad assets. In other words, they've got a portfolio of 1,000 homes and they're like, well, 10% of these aren't very good. They're kind of like, they're problem areas maybe, or, we're not getting the rent we want in that area. So let's just go ahead and we're just going to sell those homes. But right now, buying more homes doesn't make sense because they're too expensive. So in that case, they are net sellers, but don't for a second think that they're just unloading their portfolios and giving them up to mom and pop. They're selling them to other investors. Or if they do put them on the market, somebody's going to buy them, but it's not like they're just giving away all their inventory. So those institutional investors aren't going anywhere. So you got you along with everybody else on the sidelines waiting. Then you've got institutional investors with buckets of cash. Then you got mom and pop investors. Maybe you got move up buyers in that too. I don't know. But my point is that like now that we've gone through the cycle of the GFC and the debacle in housing, then everybody said, wow, I can buy a house for next to nothing in 2012. I'm going to be a millionaire. Other people said, oh, I can do that too. And then we had that run up. Then we have the next run up. Like the gig is up. Like people know, or the jig, is it the gig or jig? I don't know which one it is. It's a gig and the jig. They're both up. They're both, people know the cat's out of the bag. People know real estate is a great investment. And so they're not going to just sit on their hands when prices drop. What if prices and rates drop? Like what if the prices drop 40% and interest rates drop below 5%? Believe it or not, there are people who will be able to qualify and buy a home. And at that kind of discount, I would think they're going to drive prices up again. So to think there's going to be these homes on the market that are just sitting there like burning bushes, and you're the only one that sees it, and everybody else just walks past it. Come on, man. Come on. Stop playing. But let's talk about the real cost of a housing market crash. Because we need to also stop pretending that it's painless. During the 2008 housing market crash, the stat I read, 10 million Americans lost their home to something, to some, either they had to put it on the market and move in with a family member, or they got foreclosed on. I mean, it wasn't millions of foreclosures actually happening, but a lot of people had to change the living situation and lost their home. Obviously, credit became incredibly tight when everything crashed in 2008. Lenders weren't willing to lend to as many people. So it got incredibly difficult because the crash isn't just about you getting an opportunity. The crash is like massive financial ruin, right? Tons of people lose their jobs, millions of job losses. I would imagine a lot of increased child poverty, probably a lot more divorces. I I would have to think, unfortunately, a lot more, mental distress. I lived through the GFC. I was in construction. I was in the new construction business then, not building homes, but I was in an auxiliary business. But we got hammered. I mean, we got wrecked. Our business got wrecked during the GFC. We all took pay cuts. The whole company took massive pay cuts. Bonuses were suspended. Couldn't go see customers. I mean, a lot of customers that were home builders, they went belly up. So if you're hoping for a housing market crash and you're like, I can't wait, realize there's a lot of pain that comes with that in the economy. Now, we could still have a housing market crash. That could happen, and we could see that kind of doom and destruction. I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm not that type of realtor. I'm not a cheerleading realtor. Rah, rah. That's not me. I mean, look right here. Sold, no, didn't sell. See, I'm more of a realist. But I do know that the housing market crash will cause massive pain. Massive pain. Could cause you pain. You could lose your job. Then you've been on the sidelines waiting to buy. Oops, don't have a job. Now what? Not good. Not good at all. So let me look at, I don't know if, hopefully my connection's still good. Let me look at some comments here. I hope the prices drop a bunch. I need to buy a place. At 66, I'm looking for quiet and peaceful. Ah, Cheryl, understood. Yeah, so you're one of those folks that really wants a lower price because you want to buy. I understand. Good for you. I hope you're doing the right things. I'm sure you are. Where do you live, Cheryl? What state or what area? Just kind of curious. Always curious on what people are up to. As they blame it on tariffs, property taxes, unrealized gains, taxes, HOA, Melrose, interest rates, and insurance will rise. As your property value decreases, it's law or they won't sell it. LOL. I'm not sure. Maybe. Kentucky. Ah, okay. I just had a client move to Kentucky, sold his house in Ohio, moved to Kentucky. Well, that's great. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. By the way, if you are on here listening and you have some time and you want to buy a home, one of the first things I would do is go to Real Estate Mindset's channel and I would take his home buying course. He has a free home buying course. I would take that course. I've previewed it and I've actually sent clients to it because first-time home buyer clients, because I don't have a course like that. It's a fantasy to create right now, but I've got, I don't know, some realtors are slow, but right now I'm like busy as can be, so I don't have time to do it. But he has a great course on, he has a couple other courses too, but his home buying 101 course is excellent. I would definitely take it. It's free, you know. So Cheryl, I don't know if you've taken his course, but even if you're not a first-time home buyer, it's a great course to take. So I would encourage you to do that. So hopefully you're doing that. You're looking in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida. Did you say Ohio? Yeah. But looking in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Got it. Okay. Well, if you want to buy a house in Ohio, depending on what area of Ohio, I can refer you to some folks that can help probably. Um, so my contact info is in the description below if you want to reach out. I can help. Hopefully I can help you in some way. Whoops. Got some other comments here. The housing bubble has caused a lot of pain. The young people need lower prices. I agree, it has caused a lot of pain. The young people do need lower prices. But like, I guess what happens if, because we don't know, what happens if the housing market doesn't crash? What happens if, like, there are some metros where the housing prices now are lower than they have been in like the last 2.5 years. Yeah, there are I mean, you can look at the markets and see how it peaked in 2022 and then has come down since then. So did we get our correction in those markets already? Because like in Austin, I'm seeing the prices like stabilize. They're not headed straight down anymore. They kind of almost had their party. Is that, I don't know, did prices already correct in some markets? Maybe. In Columbus here, I thought prices would correct more so than they have. They haven't corrected at all. They're just continuing to go up, unfortunately. So I know that young people need that, but what happens if they don't get it? Then you just not buy a house? That's your option. You don't have to buy a house. But if you want to buy a house, you still got to go out and find a way to do it. Anyway, let's talk about that real quick, about how to do that. Because that's really what probably some people want to know, instead of just complaining, right? I would say the number one thing you need to do beyond understanding, your finances like credit and your income and qualifying for a loan. I'm going to assume you do that. Like, let's assume you get all that done. How do you find a house, right? Let's say I get all my stuff together and I'm all excited. Then I open up Zillow and I'm like, oh, there's nothing I can buy. You should find something that no one else is looking at. How do you do that? One of the things you could do is get with a realtor in your area and ask them for all the expired listings over the past 2 years. You want to know any home in your price range, in the area you want to buy in the configuration. So if you want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or 2-bedroom, 1-bath, whatever, ask them for all the expired listings that you can get in that area. I don't know how many there'll be. Like there could be 100, 200, 300, whatever. Look at those properties, pick out the ones that you're like, yeah, those are kind of interesting. And then you can either ask the realtor or you can do this yourself. You just go onto Zillow, type that address in, see if it's sold. If it didn't sell yet, check it, put a checkbox by it. Then go to your realtor and say, I want you to contact all these people. If they won't do that, find another realtor. Just find another one. But if they will do that, which most of them probably will, have them contact those owners. And heck, if they won't do it, you can do it yourself, by the way. You can look up the owner information if you want to and contact the owner yourself. Or you can contact the agent that listed the home. Because some agents where that home expires on their listing, if somebody calls and says, I'd be interested in buying that if it expired, they may have a chance to make a commission. And you all know how much realtors like commissions, right? So, like, people aren't doing that. People, like investors, sometimes do it, but most of them are lazy and they don't even do it either. But go out, look at the expired listings and go, aha, there are listings out here where people just pulled it off the market and gave up. A lot of that is wish pricing, meaning they didn't need to sell their home. But there you will find somebody probably that's like, yeah, nobody really made an offer I liked, but it's been like a year now and I really do want to sell it, but maybe they're embarrassed to put it back on the market. Here you come in and say, let's talk about buying your home. That's a way to do it. You could definitely find that. The other thing you can do is you can use the current MLS or Zillow, look for all the houses that have been on the market a long time, unless there aren't any that have been on a long time. But the ones that have been on the longest could be good targets too. So those are a couple ways to find opportunities. The other way to find an opportunity, believe it or not, would be with a wholesaler. So they have there's people out there, depending on what market you're in, what state, laws are different, but here in Ohio, they have something called a property wholesaler. And those folks actually go out and they can, they'll talk to a seller or a homeowner and they'll offer to buy the home and put the house in contract. Then they sell that contract. This is not sub to, by the way, or anything like that. This is them selling the contract then to the end buyer, which could be you. 99.9% of the time, that's an investor. But it doesn't have to be an investor. It could be a homeowner. It could be a homeowner. There's no law against that. I'll caution you that you need to understand that process with wholesaling, and you need to make sure you talk to a lawyer when you're in that process, because it's not the same as buying a house on the market. There's definitely hidden traps there. But I have bought properties from wholesalers before. I do know one individual who bought their home they live in from a wholesaler. That will work too. The other thing you can do is you can actually go to uh, some websites that specialize in not only real estate auctions, but auctions from HUD. So HUD will oftentimes auction off properties that are owner occupant only, meaning only owner occupants can bid on the properties, not investors. And those exist. All you have to do is Google them and you'll find them. I don't have a link in front of me, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but they exist. And then there's my favorite way of finding a home, and that is driving for dollars. And that simply is the process of jumping in your car, driving to the area you want to live in, drive the streets, write down the houses that look like they need some care, like oh, there's some weeds there, oh, there's a tarp on the roof, there's some junky cars in the driveway. Write those addresses down, look up the owner information, and I don't care if you're in a non-disclosure state or not, you can still find the data. Look up the owner information and send them a letter. Send them a letter that says, I want to talk to you about purchasing your home. If you're interested, give me a call or shoot me a text. Put your number there. That's it. Just be honest. And as an owner occupant, you have an advantage over a lot of other people, because this is how I find my investment properties. This is mainly how I do it. And you have an advantage over me because you're an owner occupant. A lot of people, rightly so, don't want to sell to an investor. They'd rather sell to somebody in the neighborhood or in the area, or somebody who wants to live in the house. So that gives you an advantage. That does work. Again, today I'm going to go look at a property. Yesterday I looked at a property that I found from driving for dollars. And I know it's a cheesy name. Like, I'm trying to come up with something different. It's not my name. I didn't come up with it, but it's really cheesy. I get it. I get it. Find those driving for dollar opportunities. You will get people to call you back. They'll either call you back and tell you one of two things. One, leave me alone. I don't send me any more letters. Fine, take them off your list. Number two, there's going to be people that say, I want to talk to you about buying my home. Give me a call back. Or they call you and you answer and you have a conversation. Doesn't mean you're going to buy the home. You haven't seen the inside yet. You don't know what it looks like. But at least it starts a conversation. You could engage a realtor at that point, but you don't have to. And you don't have to use the MLS. And you don't have to use Zillow. Will they sell at a huge discount? I don't know. But you can probably assume that there's going to be somewhat of a discount there versus a property that's just on the market and everybody's looking at. Anyway, that I would definitely do that. Definitely do that. All right, let's find out. Let's see what else you got. What else you got? As long as hedge funds are buying, I don't see it crashing ever. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great point. Like, if it comes down in price, then hedge funds buy and it goes whoop right back up. Hope not, but hoping isn't a strategy. Again, I'm not telling you to run out and buy a house right now. I'm not. I'm not saying you better buy now before prices go up. I'm not saying that. Not at all. Just saying, don't wait on the market to get cleaned up. Don't wait for the fraud, the greed, and the corruption to leave the system in order for everything to be, the stars to align like exactly correct, right? For you to be able to buy the house. I mean, you're going to wait forever. The stars will never align like that. There'll always be some goofy company in the market trying to do something unscrupulous. Isn't that unfortunately, the way people act? Oh, oh, I got a good one here. What's this? Yes, I bought a home from Click Cash Home Buyers. It was worth 300K. I got it for 200K. I did a light rehab. Cool. School me. Do you live in that house, or is that an investment? Either one. I don't care which one. But if you are living in the house, that'd be neat. That'd be cool. Click Cash Home Buyers. What is that? What is Click Cash? Is that like a wholesaler? Is that what that is? I'd love to know. Tell us more. I see. I think that's the major problem I think the major problem people are having is not finding a home, not finding a deal. It's not that they're, I mean, so it is that homes are expensive. I get that. And it is that there are people out there struggling to qualify. I don't know if you can hear that bird or not, but it's awful loud. But I think the big problem is there are people that are qualified, uh, like on this channel, I see it all the time. People have money, at least they say they do, and they're ready to buy, but they can't find the right opportunity. So I think that's one of the bigger problems. Oh, I'd love to know, though, school me more details about your click home buyer, click cash home buyers. No, sold it. What? What happened here? No, sold it for 300K. Yes, wholesaler. Oh, okay, you flipped it. I got it. Yeah, that's a great example. So you found a home that it was worth 300K. You bought it for 200K from a wholesaler. You did a light rehab and you flipped it and made yourself some cash. Good job. That's awesome. I've done the same thing with a wholesaler. But yeah, if you want to find out more about wholesaling, just Google it, and you literally Google wholesalers in my area. The other thing you can do is you can network with investors in your area, and they will point you to wholesalers who you can get on a mailing list, like an email list, and they'll send you deals. Again, as an investor, you're just going to have I'm sorry, as a homeowner, you're going to have an advantage because as an investor, it's all about the numbers, right? So if the numbers don't calculate out exactly right, you're like, I'm not going to do the deal. But as a homeowner, if you're like, well, if I buy that house that's 200 grand, like School Me's saying, I buy the house $200,000, I put $20,000 into it to fix the things that need fixed. But let's say the bathroom is kind of old and nasty, but it can still be used. Maybe you don't renovate that off the bat. You just move in, live in it, and slowly renovate over time. As an investor, you can't do that really, for the most part. You're going to renovate it all and then try to sell it. So you have an advantage as a homeowner. You definitely do. $25,000 rehab. Got it. That's great. That's great. By the way, if you're on the channel, hit the like button if you're watching this. I always forget to say that, but don't be a freeloader. Hit the thumbs up. Oh, let's see what you have to say now. Most of them are wholesalers and send trash deals that make no sense. That's true. It's like everything else. You're not going to get every deal is not going to be amazing, but you may find one here and there. Anyway, I'm just trying to point out that there's another way to do things rather than just looking at the MLS, right? Or looking at Zillow, which is like can get like really um it can just beat you down. There ain't nothing out there. If I waited for the MLS or Zillow to find investment opportunities, I wouldn't own anything. I wouldn't be able to buy anything. It would be a worthless endeavor. There's nothing out there hardly. You have to go off market. Have to. The other thing you can do, there's all kinds of ways to do this, folks. The other way you can go is buying a duplex, a triplex, or a quad. And for those that really want to understand that process, I suggest you check out One Rental at a Time. That YouTube channel has folks on there that are average everyday people that have been very successful with real estate investing, from starting out buying a duplex, renting one side, living in another, or buying a quad, a 4-unit building. If you buy a 2, a 3, or a 4-unit building, it counts as a primary residence under FHA. Not illegal, not fraudster stuff. You're not going to be, it's 100% on the up and up, but FHA treats a 2, 3, and 4-unit property as a primary residence if you live in one of the units, just like a single family house. So you can buy a small little apartment building, 2, 3, 4 units, rent out the other units, live in one unit, and the other units will pay either a good portion of your mortgage or in some situations, the entire mortgage. And then if you ever sell that building, you're treated tax-wise, normally, I'm not a tax expert, but tax-wise, you're treated as a primary residence, not an investment property. If you live in it and you really stay there in one unit, and that's your primary residence, your tax treatment's a lot better. You're not getting hammered with capital gain tax. Or you can hang on to it and buy another one down the road. Now, the one that you move out of is not your primary residence anymore. If you buy a second one, you got to, obviously, the new one you buy would be your primary residence. but that one you live in is your primary residence, and that qualifies. There's not enough people doing that. If you are looking for a home right now and you really want a home for you and your family, and you can be flexible at all, seriously look at small multifamily. Here in the Midwest, there are tons of older homes, big homes, like 3,000 square foot homes from like the 1900s, early 1900s, that need renovated, that are now turned into duplexes. I've worked with clients before, helped them find a single family home that they turned into a duplex, specifically for this reason. And there are loans you can get through the FHA to renovate those properties, those primary residences. You can get an FHA 203K loan. They do exist. They can work if you're willing to do the work behind it. Those programs exist out there, folks. You don't have to go to a mortgage broker and get a standard 30-year loan and find the move-in ready house in the new neighborhood. I mean, that's not a requirement to find a home. You can do something others are unwilling to do, and you will normally win. Watch what everybody else does. Go that way. Ah, here we go. My first property I purchased was a triplex. Moved in, lived rent-free, FHA loan. Awesome. Awesome. Good for you. Night Cry, what's up, man? Well, I don't know if you're a man or not. I say that to everybody, so don't get offended. Curb scouting. Not bad. I like that name. Curb scouting. I'll have to think of that. Or is that really a name? Or did you make that up? I like it. I like it. What else we got on here? Then I started buying fixtures, moved in, fixed them all myself, then sold 2 years later for tax-free profit. I'm guessing that's what you're saying. For tax-free profit, did that a few times. It's great. It is great. Well done. Well done. That's awesome. Yeah, if I could do it all over again, my wife and I often talk about this. Like, that would be what we would do. In fact, like, we're thinking of doing that when I don't, she will probably retire. I'm probably never going to retire, but that's what I think we'll do in our later years in life. I think we're going to find a quad or a duplex somewhere, like wherever we want to live. I'm not sure where exactly. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to house hack. I can't pass up the opportunity. I've been like, if I could go back in a time machine, like Back to the Future, right? And go back to the year 1998, I would grab Jason out of bed, shake him, take him behind the woodshed, have my way with him, and tell him, you must house hack. But can't do that. That's just a fantasy. What's up, Chris? Some really cool big houses are former duplexes as well if there's a market for shortage of larger home. If there's a if there's a market with a shortage of larger homes. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know, I'm not sure about other areas of the country, but there's some small towns in Ohio, towns nobody's ever heard of, that have some of the biggest houses I've ever seen in my life. Like they are 4,000, 5,000 square foot homes. Some of them built out of like stone and brick from the early 1900s where, the mayor lived there or some tycoon lived in the house. And now a lot of them are kind of tore up. They're kind of dilapidated. Maybe they are triplexes or duplexes or quads. And yeah, you can turn them back into single family homes. Chris is right. Or you can take the single family and turn it into a duplex or triplex. Obviously, you have to look at the zoning laws and all that jazz. You can't just do it as you want to, but those opportunities exist. Buying a triplex and living in it would have been great when I was young, unmarried, didn't have a massive garage full of stuff. Exactly right, Nightcry. Yeah, I agree. It's And so, as fully transparent, I'm kind of making excuses for myself and my wife. My wife would say, like, if I don't think I've ever pinned her down on this, but I think she would admit to me that we could do it now if we really wanted to, but I guess we don't want it bad enough, I guess, to do it. But you could do it right now, but I do have a lot of stuff. I've got a barn, right? I've got some acreage in a barn, so I've got like a tractor and equipment in there. I can't just, throw that into some apartment or a duplex garage. But if I really wanted to do it, I could. I think everybody could. It's just how bad you want it. That's what it comes down to. You guys are great. You guys have great comments. But again, I guess going back to this, let me look at Chris's comment real quick. Sorry, getting distracted. I can't see myself house hacking at this stage in life, but there are some duplexes around me that I need to learn how to analyze better. Aha. Yeah, let me know, Chris. Reach out. I'll help you through. I'll share my cash flow spreadsheet I have that it's not rocket science, but it's just a Google sheet, but I can share it and kind of walk you through how I look at deals. Maybe see if I can help at all. Um, yeah, I don't know that I could do it either. It would take a lot, but hopefully later in life I'll be a little more flexible, with the kids and the job and all that jazz. Um, but I really want to know from you if you're watching this, because the theme of this video is, are you rooting for a housing market crash? I want to know, are you? And why are you rooting for a housing market crash? Because you want to see doom and destruction and you have no intention to buy and you think the system's rigged against you? Or are you really like, I just really want a house for a good price, so I'd like the prices to come down? There's probably a lot, in reality, there's probably a lot more people in that camp than there are just doomers, I think. Probably. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me what you think, but I think there's probably a lot more people that are like really genuinely want to buy a home. Anything else? Did I forget anything? Here, Cheryl asked me something here. What's this? Price to me is a big thing. Lower prices are more important than interest rates. I understand that. I understand that. Yeah, that it can be. I guess it depends on your situation, right? There's probably a point at which, because if you get 30-year fixed money, 30-year, which most people are getting with homes, then there's probably a point at which, even with a price that you don't necessarily care for, the deal still makes sense. Obviously, you have to build in the increase of property taxes and insurance, right? But I think there's probably a point at which it makes sense. Because it could be a reality that interest rates come down, but prices don't. Prices could come down, but interest rates don't. So I think you have to kind of be okay with both scenarios. And again, if price is what matters to you, Cheryl, then you need to work with someone and do what you need to do on your end to find an opportunity with a lower price. I think you do. Um, there's a website that I just found a couple days ago called, is it Gallo? I'll try to link it, or maybe do it on the next live. I don't have time to go look for it right now. But it was, there's a website that is off market properties that sellers, it's like for sale by owner. And it's only a website that does for sale by owner. And you contact the people directly. So there are websites like that out there. I'll try to do a live about them. I'll find some more. But I would like pull out all the stops. Look at wholesalers, for sale by owner, expired listings, drive for dollars. Be willing to house hack if needed. You look at all those things and find something with a lower price. Even look at auctions. You look at auctions, foreclosures, right? You could do that. You got to know what you're doing when you go in, but it is possible. I helped somebody sell a house here in Ohio, or in central Ohio, and move down south in southern Ohio. They bought a foreclosure down there. They sold their home up here, didn't know anything on it or hardly anything, took that cash, bought a foreclosure closer to their family, paid cash for it. Mm. All right, what time is it here? Ooh, I gotta roll. Gotta roll in a minute. Shazel, what's up? As an investor, I have a seller who has 2 commercial properties in Dayton, Ohio. Would you have information on what cap rates are in Dayton? I don't. I don't, Shazel. That's a pretty localized stat. Like you can look them up online. They're not very reliable. I would call um, a commercial broker down there. Like look up large commercial brokers in Dayton, and I would call them. And if you're pleasant when you call, most of them will give you that information, and just ask them because it depends on what type of commercial property it is, obviously, and what location. And I don't know Dayton enough to know those cap rates. So I wish I could help you, but I would just call. If it was me and I was doing that exercise, I would call a broker, commercial broker in that area, and ask them what are the typical cap rates. You could even call like a large property management company down there and ask them. Um, Even look on Facebook for investors in that area who live in Dayton, and then reach out to them. They'll probably share that information. So that's how I would do it. It's something you kind of have to get locally, at least in my experience. Oh, you're welcome. I don't know if I help much. I kind of told you I can't help you, but hopefully they can on if you make some calls. Okay, it's 10:18. I gotta roll. Gotta go take a look at a couple properties. Maybe do some more driving for dollars. Who knows? Anyway, thanks for joining me today. Again, leave the comment below. I want to know how or why are you rooting for a housing market crash? What you're going to do about it if you buy? And do you think what I said today was BS? Or do you think it was real, like from my theory about people on the sidelines? I want to know from you if you think that's a typical realtor thing to say or if it's genuine. I think it's genuine, but I'll leave it up to you and I won't be offended. Take your housing frustration out on the nerd. I'm here to help you. Hmm. Hang on one second. I saw this. You guys like, oops. I have been told by a guy who does this, gets hard money from a bank on rehab. The refinances as 80% of mortgage when fixed up and valued higher. Yeah, a Burr method, BRRR. That's what that is. It does work. It can also not work. Trust me. I know from firsthand experience, it doesn't always work. I've messed up a few times on that. Actually, twice, and yeah, it wasn't fun. That's another topic though, and another day. Hey, thanks again for joining me. I really have to go now. I really appreciate you guys and the interaction. Thank you for watching. Thanks for the comments. We'll see you again on the next video. I'm the housing nerd, and I'm out. OUT out. Nerd out.